didn't hear it say that in the last one, so hopefully it recorded.
I'm pretty sure it recorded.
Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the RISE presentation, our quarterly investor update. I'm so excited for all who are joining now and listening later. So we're going to be talking about the RISE, and we purchased it August of last year. So we are about 9 months in. It was 128 units. And it was 2022 build. So we're really excited about that. And so we'll go into the presentation. So we're about 10 months in, and kind of occupancy has stayed. We had some dips in occupancy, but it has stayed above 90% most of this quarter. But the biggest thing was kind of our expenses. So there's a new property across the streets that kind of made occupancy dip in April. So we're learning and we're adjusting. So second quarter, we were anywhere from 89% to 94%. And that was from kind of April to mid-July. We closed at about 92%. So a little below our 95 threshold, but now coming back up, right? And so it's above our 90% threshold, but it's below our 95, which is where we really want to be. Due to some kind of big operating expenses, our NOI is tracking at about 18% behind budget, so behind what we underwrote it for. Expenses in April and May kind of caused that. So we were at 50% in April and 57% in May, and that was from some capital work that we did and unit turn. So it wasn't anything structural, but that kind of, so one of our big goals is like, how can we fix that gap? How can we narrow the gap and fix it? But one big positive is that collections kind of turned the corner in May. So our biggest delinquent tenant was evicted, and we also evicted two more. So that was like, and also in May, we had 9 renewals that landed in a single week. So I think that all of that we're really excited about that, right? So we had some dips, but then we had some really, really big wins. And that's kind of where I want us to focus on this month or this meeting, this quarter. And so kind of looking ahead, right? Our occupancy, our underwriting was around 90% and we're at 92, right? So we're higher, which is good. Our expense ratio was definitely a lot higher than anticipated, and that was because of those two one-time capital costs. And I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail, but delinquency is actually in the right direction. That big tenant that we were able to evict plus two more, and kind of the things that we are almost complete with all our capital, all our renovation plans. So lighting, grills, we're about to finish up on the storage shed, but otherwise everything else we kind of took care of. So those are the big things, and thinking about our actual versus underwriting budget for this second quarter. And so this is just kind of month by month detail, where we are behind the budget. So kind of the big things were bad debt, which we cleared that, and then operational expenses, kind of OpEx. That was another big one where we were higher in. So like our May underwriting was 45%, we were at 57. And in June, our underwriting, we're at 45% right here. And we kind of, actual was 50. So those were like the operational expenses were kind of our biggest hit this past quarter. And our goal is to kind of go back down to where we need to be. And for this 2022 property, we really should be closer to 45%. And then just like bottom, looking at distribution. So we still distributed first quarter, second quarter, we distributed, and then LP got distributions, but the general partnership team did not get any distributions. And then this is kind of what I told you about occupancy. So with the new property across the street, they started leasing up in April, right? So we started having dips in April. So we went from a strong 93% slowly to 91, then we really dropped to 89. And then, but we came back up and we stayed steady around 92%. So this is kind of, an 8 point weekly read across Q2 and exactly what happened. But the biggest thing that we've done is really think about creative ways to increase occupancy across the portfolio, but specifically at the Rise because of that new property across the street. And we toured the property. They have a smaller parking lot. Their unit sizes are a lot smaller. So there are things that are in our favor. And we have some 3 bedrooms that they don't. So there are things that are in our favor that we're going to push in this upcoming quarter as we learn more about like our competition. So kind of looking at where our expenses were, right? 10 months in and kind of we closed again, occupancy closed really well. We underwrote for 9% and for 90%, but we're at 92. But really kind of the biggest things were some of the capital expenditures that we spent across. So just kind of looking at it from more of an operations standpoint, but almost all those operations are done. So like the courtyard, the pool, the last thing we need to do is just to build out the shed. So a lot of stuff, all like the major expenses that we spend, the one-time big expenses, they're all done. So we're really, really focusing very closely on where expenses are this next quarter and moving forward. But kind of speaking about some of the improvements that we did, I told you it's almost done. I think all that's left over is the shed, but the pool lighting is completely done and it's really, really beautiful at night. The charcoal grills are all installed. This is them right here. All of those are installed and those look really good. We also kind of all the outdoor grills. So we have those grills, but then we have grills by the playground and the dog park. So all of those like are done. The picnic area, we changed all the chairs because when we were there, some of the chairs had nails in them. So we fixed all of those like nails coming out. So we redid those. We completed the outdoor grill over there. We did enclosures on them. We got new grills. And then the team asked for a maintenance shed. And so that's the last thing that we're working on right now. And also one of the things we also did, we tankless water heater. So we're doing that program to just kind of see again how we can decrease expenses. And then resident engagement is big and the community really loves it. And so we want to make sure that every month we do something great, something fun for our residents. So they know how much we love them, how much we appreciate them, and then they can tell their friends to come live in their apartment complex. But we did Easter egg hunt in April. We did Chick-fil-A in May. We did like Chick-fil-A breakfast, and then we got those 9 lease renewals. We should do more Chick-fil-A. And then we have a pool party that is coming up. So those are some of the things that we're doing and making sure that we're getting excited about the summer and then school starting. And so in terms of like capital structure and alignment, nothing has changed. So this is kind of where we are. Our goal and what we do is, thinking about, sorry about that. Great. Thinking about like LP investments first, right? So that's like our goal. And it is making sure that like you are protected and you're getting your cash flow first, right? So our goal is to get to that preferred return of 6%. And that's really what we're working towards. And so that's kind of where we are in terms of like our big plan. So nothing has changed here. We're still working on making sure that we catch up to that preferred return, but our investors we're distributing, and you should have received your distribution last month. So in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I'm pretty sure that everybody received their distribution. And so kind of thinking about that, right? This is a schedule of distributions because a lot of investors have asked about it, and I want to make sure. So Q1 was processed in April, and then scheduled late July. Everyone should have gotten their Q2 distribution. So we're fully funded, and we're operating entirely from our cash flow, which is really good. We have 253,000 in like operating reserves that we haven't touched. And so we're just keeping that just in case, but we haven't touched it. And that's kind of where we are. And then we're focusing on Q3. And our biggest plan is figuring out really how to go about tackling decreasing expenses. But we do understand that the turns and the CapEx that we did was kind of why operations increased, why the operation expenses increased, but we know that we're going to bring it back down. And then, so kind of where we are from an operations standpoint, right? All the things we cleared out delinquency. Most of our exterior renovations, which is what we focused on, is all done. And then we're now focusing really hard on occupancy and making sure that like the expense ratio also goes down. So those kind of the things that we're focusing on from an operational standpoint. And like I told you, we've come up with really neat, creative ways to increase occupancy. So those are some of the things we're just trying to figure out ways to drive additional new tenants into the property, especially because of the property across the street. So we're figuring out ways that we can differentiate ourselves, our larger property size. We're reaching out to schools, we're reaching out to businesses. Just to make sure that they are all aware. And then we're also partnering with our sister property to come up with cool initiatives between those two, between Park at Arlington and the Rise. And so from a capital standpoint, nothing has changed there. We are kind of we are still distributing from cash flow, and that hasn't changed. Our exit window, we're still very early. We're 10 months in, but we're shooting for 2030, 2031. And we're planning to do a 5-year hold. And so we're just kind of transitioning from year 1 to year 2. The biggest goals are making sure that from an operating standpoint, that we're operating the property efficiently. We are increasing occupancy, decreasing vacancy. We're also making sure that like we're decreasing our expenses. And those are kind of the big things that we're thinking about, especially as we are wrapping up all our renovations. And then, so the kind of 4 risks that, we see, and then what we've improved, right? So, and the one thing that we have improved this quarter is really delinquency, right? That biggest tenant that we got evicted is wonderful, plus the other 2. And the goal is like we are very disciplined with collections, making sure that, if we need to go through the eviction process, we will. But we are also, one of the biggest risks is where our current NOI is versus what we budgeted in our underwriting. So we're really thinking, and again, I told you, was the turns and the one-time capital work that wasn't, that we didn't use money that was in reserve, but we used cash flow. So that's why our expenses were a little higher, but we're going to normalize that into the summer. We want to continue to hold occupancy strong at above 90, but we really want it to be at 95. So we are really honing in on closer accountability on what the team is doing, what the property manager is doing, what the property management team is doing to really help us get back to 95%. And then and so that's kind of where our big focus is. And I told you kind of the big risk is that new supply in Conyers, the property across the street. So we're really figuring out how we can differentiate ourselves as we continue to grow. And so our goal for Q3, and this is kind of where I want you guys to hold us accountable. So we're going to push occupancy, and we continue to do that. So we dipped in May, and then we picked back up in June with the 9 lease renewals. And we want to continue to do that to be above 93% and at 95 better. We're continuing to keep to clear our delinquency accounts. So that's also important, where one of the things we're doing is a storage shed. We're gonna do that, and that's probably one of the last things from a CapEx and big like renovation that we're planning on doing. And then the other thing is just kind of to let the expense ratio normalize, so really decrease expenses, which we're doing because those kind of big one-time expenditures are done. But that's kind of the goal for Q3, and that's what I'm hoping to update you guys with next month. So as I wrap up, we're 10 months in, occupancy is resilient, even with the new property across the street, like we're bouncing back. And I know we're going to continue to go up. So we're just staying resilient and continuing to do the things that we want to do. Capital hasn't changed, so exactly where we want to be. We're distributing, investors are happy. If at any point, like you're not here or you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to our team. And then we're still targeting an exit of 2030 to 2031. So that's kind of the big picture about the Rise. The property across the street kind of rattled us a little bit, but we bounced back occupancy is going back up. So we are kind of on the offense right now. We know the things we need to do. We know how to kind of get newer tenants in, and we also want to keep the tenants that we have. That's also part of our strategy as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me if you have, or any member of our team. If you want to jump on a call to just to answer any questions a little bit further, we can. But until next quarter, I will see you again and I will update you on how the rise is doing. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.